Do we have another out there available? Oh, I didn't see him. Okay, Senator Niello. And members and audience, we have just been informed by Senator Blake Spear that she's pulling file item 2, SB 1148, from today's hearing.
Morning.
How are you, sir?
Good.
Senator Niello, when you're ready, SB 1413.
Mr. Chair, I was born ready. Thank you very much. I thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to present SB 1413, and I'll start by saying that I will accept the committee's proposed amendments. SB 1413 is a policy debate that some might say is as old as time itself. Well, maybe not quite that old, but it is a long-standing debate about how we in California can control our own destiny and once and for all ditch the switch to the time change. It is a majority opinion that we do ditch the switch. The only question is to which switch to ditch. In 2018, California voters approved Proposition 7, which allows the legislature to change rules relating to daylight saving time. Since the passage of Prop 7, there's been a great deal of confusion. Many voters actually thought that they had decided this issue, but like so many bills and propositions, the devil is in the details. Proposition 7 authorizes the legislature to amend these provisions by a two-thirds vote in our institution to change the dates and times of the daylight saving time period consistent with federal law to provide for the application of year-round daylight saving time if authorized by Congress. That's an important distinction. Currently, federal law only allows states to authorize permanent standard time or utilize daylight saving time on a temporary basis during the year, as we currently do. To date, Congress has not approved a move to permanent daylight saving time and so far shows no inclination to do so. In light of the lack of action by the federal government, it is important given the widespread opinion that we do stop switching every 6 months, that California consider another option to address the issue by moving to permanent standard time. A majority of Californians agree that they do not want to keep switching back and forth. I've worked over the interim with a group of lawmakers in bordering states, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Utah, who are all considering the same thing in their respective houses so that we would have consistency. Not only does SB 1413 eliminate an inconvenience for Californians, but there are multiple health and safety implications this change would help to address. Medical experts, such as the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, state that permanent standard time aligns with our body's internal clock and provides a, quote, better opportunity to get the right duration of high-quality, restful sleep on a regular basis, which improves our cognition, mood, cardiovascular health, and overall well-being. The California Sleep Society also supports moving to permanent standard time, citing increased risk of accidents, obesity, cardiovascular disease, mood disorders, cognitive impairment, decreased immunity, and the development of neurologic degeneration due to sleep deprivation associated with switching to daylight saving time. Another study shows traffic fatalities have an increase of 6% during the daylight saving time transition. The Journal of Clinical Medicine also reports a 5.6% increase in heart attacks following the switch to daylight saving time. And to add just a bit more, stroke rates also increase under daylight saving time. A study in Finland, researchers found that the overall rate of ischemic stroke was 8% higher during the first few days after daylight saving time transition. I'd now like to call on my two witnesses. First, we have Mr. JP with the nonprofit standard, Save Standard Time, and I'll introduce the second witness when Jay concludes. Jay?
You'll have 2 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Hi, Chair Bradford, Vice Chair Dolly, members of the committee. My name is JP. Last name is spelled Papa Echo Alpha. I'm the president of Save Standard Time. I'm also the great-grandson of farmers. I'm an amateur astronomer. I'm a software engineer, and I'm asking for your yes vote on SB 1413. And thank you to Senator Niello for bringing this bill forward. This bill can ditch the switch in the fastest and safest way possible. Standard time is the natural time set to the sun, where 12 p.m. corresponds to high noon. This balances the light over the morning and the evening, which corresponds to better sleep, mood, health, safety, education, and even the economy. This is especially important for school children, for commuters, for farmers, construction workers, and even persons of lower income levels. This is the opinion of the California Medical Association, the California Sleep Society, the American Medical Association, the National Safety Council, even the editors of Bloomberg. This information is based on hundreds of studies and decades of history. Permanent standard time has long been observed in Arizona, in Hawaii, the 5 U.S. territories, most nations on Earth. Mexico just last year restored permanent standard time, so this would improve our trading relationship. More states than ever now have bills for permanent standard time. Now, I know some people might think, what about permanent daylight time? And I would warn against that. Daylight saving time forces early waking, and permanent daylight time would force us to go to school or work in the dark in the winter. Here in Sacramento, the sunrise would come up after 8 in the morning for 2.5 months under permanent daylight time, as late as 8:30. When we tried it in 1974, it literally cost lives, and that is why it is federally prohibited. Regarding energy, there have been many studies about this. Daylight saving time does not save energy. It's often a wash, or in some cases, it increases energy waste. Even if it were a policy to decrease energy, I would implore you to look to the strong science showing that standard time is better for health and safety. The days will always be longer in the summer by nature, not by government. Most people want us to ditch the switch, and again, permanent standard time is the quickest and safest way possible. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional witnesses in support? Oh, you have another
Yes,
backup.
let me introduce my next witness. Please do not hold the introduction against her time, because I want to make sure that you get the full portion of her expertise. Next, we have Dr. Erin Flynn-Evans. Dr. Flynn-Evans is a sleep and circadian rhythm researcher, and she is a representative at the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Dr. Flynn-Evans has extensive research experience examining the short and long-term effects of sleep loss and circadian dysynchrony in occupational settings, including among astronauts, airline pilots, physicians, and other shift workers. Currently, she is a direct sleep researcher for a large federal government organization. Dr. Flynn-Evans.
Doctor, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Bradford, and thank you. I'd like to certainly thank Senator Niello for the opportunity to support this bill. As you just heard, I'm a circadian physiologist. I've worked in sleep medicine for over 20 years. I'm also a mother to 2 teenagers who I've brought with me for a civics lesson today. I also co-authored the American Academy of Sleep Medicine's position statements on this issue in 2020 and 2024. I recommend the elimination of daylight saving time in favor of permanent standard time. As a resident of California and a representative of the AASM, there are 2 primary reasons to support this bill. First, standard time is better aligned with our internal clock. Daylight saving time sets our social clock 1 hour earlier than standard time. And when I say social clock, I mean the clock on the wall. That's the clock that determines when we have to go to work, when we have to go to school, and when we have to do other activities. This daylight saving time creates a mismatch between our internal clock and our social clock, requiring us all to wake up earlier than is natural for our bodies. Why does this happen? Because daylight saving time results in later morning darkness and later evening light. Light is the primary stimulus for the circadian rhythm or internal clock, and evening light shifts the drive to sleep and wake later. Therefore, people are unable to naturally feel sleepy until later in the night during daylight saving time. Together with the unchanged demands of having to get up early when we set our clocks, that daylight saving time forces, we lose sleep each night during the season of daylight saving time. We do not get used to chronic sleep deprivation. We feel like we do, but we do not. It continues to build, affecting our alertness, performance, and our mood. Our teenagers are particularly vulnerable because they have a natural tendency to be night owls and are more sensitive to evening light. This has consequences for their health, and studies have also shown that it has consequences for their academic performance. Second, changing the clocks twice per year results in a number of negative consequences. Specifically, the transition to daylight saving time in the spring results in many of the things that we heard from Dr. Niello, or Mr. Niello.
Doctor, we're going to ask you to
Yes,
wrap up your 2
absolutely.
minutes.
An increased rate of industrial accidents, motor vehicle crashes, increased risk for heart attacks and strokes. It's the safer and simpler choice to adopt permanent standard time. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine and many other professional and medical organizations agree permanent standard time is better aligned with our natural body clocks. By voting yes on SB 1413, Californians will stop altering our biological clocks twice a year and benefit from better sleep, health, and well-being. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Now, are there any Me Too's to this measure? Now is the time to come forward. State your name and organization. Seeing none. Individuals in opposition, it's time to come forward. Seeing none here in the chamber, bring it back to the committee. Senator Dodd.
Can I ask, I think you did a great job explaining that, but what would happen if it was daylight savings time all year round? I guess it's light so long that, and you didn't change.
So if we had daylight saving time year-round, that would obviously stop this changing that we do twice a year. But the problem is that in the winter, it would be dark in the morning. We would all be getting up in the dark because we're not going to shift the timing of our work and activities later to accommodate the later sunrise that comes with a later sort of shift in the clocks in the winter. And so just my teenagers will suffer a lot if we adopt permanent daylight saving time. It'll undo everything that we did to start school later.
And as the honorary doctor here, I would add to that we have experience with permanent daylight saving time. Some of us are old enough to remember the energy crisis in the early 70s, and we went to a 2-year pilot for daylight saving time, and we abandoned it after less than a year because it was so unpopular.
Too dark.
Thank you. Senator Wilk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in your opening comments, you mentioned that you were born ready, but I was on Wikipedia, and you were born on June 2nd, which is daylight savings time, so you were actually born too soon.
Thank you.
Having said that, I think this is a really important measure. I mean, I care about my dogs, not so much people, but my dogs. My dogs, this messes up my dogs as well. And this body, a couple years ago, passed a bill to start high school, middle school later because of the need for young people to sleep. So, again, God and Mother Nature created one rhythm, and us being man trying to change it and just going back to the way it ought to be. Again, supported by sound science makes sense, so I salute you for this bill and happy to move it when appropriate.
Thank you. Any additional? Senator Min.
Thank you for bringing this bill forward. I hate the switch as well, but I did just want to, first I wanted to mention you are a doctor of time, and I think that is like a Doctor Who reference, right?
Of course.
There we go. A Time Lord, I think, is another title for you. But I guess my question is, I know that I believe that there was a previous iteration of this bill that we tried to move forward, and one of the concerns was around the economic costs that this would create for the state. And I guess I was wondering if you could speak to what this might do as far as the cost to California. And has anyone done a comparison between the effects of, say, daylight savings time permanently versus standard time permanently versus the status quo, and what that looks like as far as the cost benefit for the state?
I'll ask the real doctor to address that point, I assume, or perhaps Mr. P.
I've been nominated. When we are on daylight saving time, we are sleeping less. I believe it's an average of 19 minutes less every single night. When we spring the clocks forward, we get 40 minutes less sleep. But every night thereafter, we're still getting less sleep because we are still getting up early. And over the long term, that chronically reduces our productivity. And that has a wear and tear on the economy. There was a study that found it could decrease wages by 1 to 3% even. So daylight time is worse for the general economy, and standard time would be better.
I guess I'm thinking specifically. I know the golf whatever clubs association opposed this because they wanted the later sun in certain times of the year. And I'm also wondering, there's probably costs of us if we're the only state to do this. There's probably some costs incurred from airplanes coming in at different times and changing the way that we're labeled. And I know we have Arizona as an example, but what happened there? Did they have to incur costs? Would we have not just the economic productivity issues, but would there be effects on the state that would impact our budget?
That's why I was attracted to this. I was actually contacted by state senators in Washington and Oregon about this because they have the same concern. They are pursuing bills in their institution for permanent standard time also. Oregon approved a move to permanent standard time subject to California doing it, interestingly. Washington did not hear the bill, but they will next year. The chair of the committee did not want to. That chair is termed out. They're anticipating that next year. Utah and Idaho are similarly considering that. And so we should have unanimity among states close in. And Mexico, the northern portion, already is on daylight saving time. I'm not aware of any studies of the economic impact. There certainly isn't any just by virtue of doing the switch. You're talking about ancillary effects because of adjustments. I have a hard time believing that would be a particularly challenging thing. I just traveled across the country this weekend, and everything I've got automatically adjusted me to the new time. That happens routinely by time zone changes. So I have a hard time believing that there would be significant economic effects. But the issue, both from an energy perspective as well as a health perspective, has been studied to death. Pardon the pun. The energy impact has been long since debunked, and the negative health impacts you have heard about, they are well established, both of those issues with many studies.
Senator Durazo.
Mr. Chair, if you could clarify what is this the bill is actually asking for, because I'd heard that there were potential amendments, so I just want to be.
The amendment clearly states to require the CEC by February 1 to conduct an assessment of the impacts of California's energy reliability of moving to year-round standard time with a focus on late summer, early fall. That's the extent of the.
Okay, so it's an assessment.
Yes.
It's not the actual repeal.
But the policy is still, the policy of the bill is to move to permanent standard time.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand that then. So if it's with the goal of moving to permanent standard time, that's different. But the study would move. In other words, we're making the decision today to move to standard time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any additional questions or concerns? Hearing none. Senator Niello, would you like to close?
Yes, thank you very much. There is multiple surveys have shown that most people want to ditch the switch. As I said earlier, when my chief of staff told me I was listening to too much Dr. Seuss, the issue isn't whether we ditch the switch. The issue is to which switch we ditch. And the quickest way to do that is to switch to permanent standard time because we can't move to permanent daylight saving time. It is contrary to federal policy. And as I said before, the federal government shows no inclination to approve that. And we had that failed experience 50 years ago. And I would emphasize that it is a high bar of approval on the floor, both in the Senate as well as the Assembly. It has to pass by a 2/3 majority. So if you have a personal preference for permanent daylight saving time, I would request that you let this move forward, and if it passes on a supermajority, to honor that supermajority for permanent standard time. So with that, I request and I vote.
It's been moved by Senator Min. We have a due pass as amended to the Senate floor. Secretary, please read.
Bradford, aye. Daly? Daly, aye. Ashby? Becker? Caballero? Dodd? Dodd, aye. Durazo?
Sleep.
Eggman? Eggman, aye. Gonzalez? Grove? Lamone? Lamone, aye. Min? Min, aye. Newman? Rubio? Ciarto? Skinner? Stern? Wilk?
Aye.
Wilk, aye. 7-0.
That measure has 7 votes. We'll leave the roll open for absent members to add on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Moving on now to file item 5 item 4, SB 1413 by Senator Niello. Please call the absent members.
Current vote 7-0, both chair, vice chair voting aye. Ashby? Becker? Becker, aye. Caballero? Durazo? Gonzalez? Grove? Newman? Rubio? Ciarto? Skinner? Stern? 8-0.
That bill has 8 votes. We'll leave the roll open. Now moving on. Next is file item 4, SB 1413 by Senator Niello.
Due pass is amended to the Senate floor. Current vote 8-0. Chair, vice chair voting aye. Ashby? Caballero? Durazo? Gonzalez? Grove? Grove, aye. Newman?
Aye.
Newman, aye. Rubio? Ciarto?
Aye.
Ciarto, aye. Skinner? Skinner, aye. Stern? 12-0. Oh, Gonzalez, aye. 13-0.
13-0. Again, we'll leave the roll open for a few more minutes to see if these members are coming back to the committee.
Good.
We're good. All right, members, that concludes our business for today.